And in Malaysia, although we ourselves are very familiar with many parts of the world and so on, I do find that there is a distinction or a difference of views between people who live in the peninsula and Sabah and Sarawak. We are not listening sufficiently to the voices of Sabah and Sarawak. And especially, we hear this. I mean, I just heard a friend of mine saying that, Malaysia is 64. That's not true. Malaysia is 58. We often forget that. And here to address this and to give us a voice from Sarawak is Antio. Antio comes from the civil society organization called ROSE, Rise of Sarawak Efforts. And forms a group of people whom I think we could call accidental activists, people of conscience who came together in GE13, who were moved to as Prof. Batlisha say, build a better Malaysia. And we are really pleased for Anne to join us this morning and to start us off by giving us, firstly, a view of what is Malaysia Day from the perspective of Sabah and Sarawak. Anne, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you to GBM and May for inviting me to speak on this webinar. I feel humble and honored to be able to share. First of all, the first part here, which is a subtopic of Malaysia Day from a Sarawak perspective. Actually, myself, I went to school in late 70s, late 70s until to middle 80s. So I was in a way brought up, and in school there is never any talk on Malaysia Agreement. There is, I think that era was an era of trying to build the unity, 70s and so on. So it's like it's just about Malaysia. So we are looking at the whole big, there's not much thing on Sarawak and how its rights has been eroded. I think it's only been in the last perhaps 15 years or so that these sentiments and narrative of Sarawakians or Sarawak being marginalized and Sabahans being marginalized was realized, or there's more awareness on this. So there's, in the history books, there's no such thing as Malaysia Agreement 1963. Of course, we know all the states and regions that form Malaysia, but only in recent times was there more of an awareness. So I think the grievances that Sarawakians have or Sabahans have, I think maybe some of you don't know, but perhaps some of you do, which is that, it's in terms of physical infrastructure, very easy to pick up the fact that when you come over here, nothing like, what you see over in West Malaysia. The highways that you see in Semenanjung, it is sort of, you can't see those kind of highways here. Here it's quite rural. The districts are quite rural. When you go, you just drive half an hour or 1 hour away from Kuching City, you're going to see, to reach the rural districts already. So of course there'll be small towns along the way, but those of you who have visited Sarawak will know what I'm talking about. And I think you've seen images of logging roads, in the Baram region and the Balaga region, where, but the people there are happy. The people there, I think they are long suffering in that sense. There's, even if they have to spend one night in the car, because their car rosak, when they were traveling like 4 or 5 hours into the interior or out from the interior, but they're still, okay, but syukur, that we are safe, even if they spend the night in the car. Why do they have such views? Maybe we have to ask them. But basically, it's we have put up with this lack of infrastructure, in particular the roads and connectivity. So internet connections, I think, same. you've seen what's her name studying and taking her examinations in the tree. She has to build a tree house that's in Sabah, of course. Yeah, so we are, you know, these differences is stuck. I think if you were to ask me what are the issues that tugs at Sarawakians and Sabahans' hearts, will be, or maybe I should speak just for Sarawak, is the idea, is the thing on religious freedom, is the thing on religious rights. That's number one. Recently, remember there was a comment by the Deputy Minister on the introduction of the propagation laws and all that. So when you scroll through the online reports, these are the reports that are getting read the most, you know, compared with, oh, there's a new government now, who's in the cabinet, and so on, other issues. So it's religious rights that tugs at Sarawakians' hearts. The other thing is the petroleum rights. I think that one is, you know, covered under MA63 and all that. But it's the petroleum rights to resources, timber and all that. Those are the things that, in particular, oil and gas. That's the second issue which really, you know, Sarawakians need to reclaim back under the MA63. So you guys would have noted also that there is one sentence or one clause in the recent MOU between the government and PH, but it remains as one clause, which is strengthening and focusing on what do you call implementation of the MA63. I think we've gone. I think this is not a new issue. This is not a new matter. I think the federal government knows the grievances of Sarawakians, and in particular on the matter of Malaysia Agreement 1963. But I think it's still quite an urban issue. Not very many people are aware of the nitty-gritties of MA63. You know, but yeah, there is more awareness now, and of course you have got different groups, different groups with different positions on whether Sarawak way forward, part of Malaysia, or make it out on our own. So groups that's got cessationist kind of perspective, groups that are in the middle, which is talking about devolution of powers, decentralization of powers. You know, as long as we get back our rights and we are not the anak tirikan, you know, then we are fine with it. So the different groups with different positions. Somehow, I think these are starting to be able. People are being able to voice out these views and positions. So I'm thankful for that. So back again to the petroleum rights. Yeah, just to give an example, I mean, there has been also talk about, we should have more representation in the federal government, so we can have more say, more voices, number of representations. Now we have 31 MPs, but in the past we may not have that many MPs. But the point to note here is that the Petroleum Development Act 1974, it was passed when Tun Abdul Rahman Mahmud was the primary industries minister. You know, Tun Rahman was the then chief minister of Sarawak, and in 1912, which is where the Territorial Sea Act was passed. This is another controversial legislation in which the continental shelf was decreased from 12 nautical miles to 3 nautical miles. Hence, you know, all the what do you call, the resources underneath the sea and so on was reduced. You know, so these two acts was passed, and it was during the BN time. You know, so what are we talking about? Is it our own people, allowing our own rights to be eroded, or is it West Malaysians? Because there's this sentiments that, you know, we have been marginalized and so on. So I think this is the atmosphere and things that you can hear if you come over to Sarawak, in the urban region.
And we also want to hear from Anne. What are the views of Sarawak regarding this MOU? Are you hopeful? Will it change, and what impact will it bring to your own Sarawak elections? Because your own Sarawak elections is actually has been postponed by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong due to emergency up to February 2022. Will this bring any change to Sarawak?
Up on the matter of implementation of OD18 and AVR, automatic voter registration. If really this comes to pass by the end of this year, then it will have an impact, because there will be about more than 600,000 Sarawakians who will be added to the roll. I think more than that, because that 600 figure is based on the 21 years of age. So add another 150, 130,000 will be added to the roll, which is like an explosion of the roll, because the roll at the moment is only about 1.2 million Sarawakians who are actually voters. So that will have an impact. For the moment, I think, of course, GPS being GPS and ally, they say they support the terms and conditions that have been entered into. Of great interest and focus by Sarawakians will be that clause on MA63, realization of MA63. Of course, it is more than just a one-liner, and I think in one seminar recently, or webinar recently, the Parliament and Law Minister, Datuk Sri Wan Junaidi, was saying that, being a one-liner, it opens up for more discussion, more leeway to be given to us, I guess, the Bonians, on negotiations and so on. So yeah, there is a rationale for that. So but I think the talks has been there for like 6-7 years already, since the days of Adinan Satem, our CM, our former CM. So people get a bit disillusioned as to whether these negotiations and talks are going to yield anything. Of course, in the interim, we've seen the state trying to wrest back, or so-called gain their territorial rights over the petroleum issue and so on. So you've seen them imposing the sales and services tax on Petronas. Of course, that doesn't mean you have full rights over the petroleum that is extracted in the state, but still, okay, I can extract some taxes for our revenue, and of course GPS is championing that, okay, look, this is us claiming back our autonomy and our rights. Yeah, that there has been of course GPS knows that it's going into state elections, so therefore a lot of things are happening here on the ground. If you don't read and notice, if you don't travel too much, I think we wouldn't know what is happening. But I think they are quietly, getting ready, pouring in all the monies, pouring in all the infrastructure, and so on to continue to get the support from the rural constituencies, which is their mainstay. In the urban areas, it's mostly Pembangkang voters. So in terms of elections, steering away from the MOU, in terms of the elections, I think SPR has still been keeping mum over the new SOPs that is expected of them to make Sarawak elections safe. I mean, we've been talking since I think 2019, because we were expecting DUN to be dissolved 2021, and or rather 2020. And we've been saying, since advent of COVID and pandemic, they should come up with special voting arrangements, which is what Rose has been advocating on, alongside Bersih, for absentee voting to be expanded to Bonians, Sarawakians and Sabahans living in West Malaysia. As pointed out by Thomas, is estimated to be about 500,000, a 250,000 Sarawakians, another 250,000 is Sabahans. Living and residing in West Malaysia. Because of the uneven playing field, more opportunity in Semenanjung, people go over, cari makan basically lah. So we have been asking and knocking on SPR's doors to think about this matter of enfranchisement of Sarawak. And of course, at the same time, we also call on the state government. You know, what are you talking about autonomy and democracy and world-class democracy for Sarawak and wanting to be, you know, separate if you are not talking about voters' rights? If you are not even enfranchising your own people, how does your own people make decisions about the future of your own state? You know, we are making, you know, by the Sarawak elections, people are put to like Tharma says, you know, to elect, you know, that very big social event that is called an elections to mobilize and elect your own future. So SPR has to come up with SOPs, come up with special voting arrangements to make elections safe. Vaccination supposed to be a silver bullet, but it's no longer a silver bullet. You know, infections are still high. So I am, in terms of elections, I think the Sarawak emergency has effectively stopped, or rather bar any elections for the near future, at least until March, you know, April kind of 2022. Yeah, but possibility of extension, I think, is there. If you notice, the MOU also has a timeline that is July 2022. So there's that possibility that it might, you know, be in tandem with the GE15. So whatever preparations we are making towards Sarawak elections also contribute towards the preparations towards GE15. So that's all for my remarks.